Hey, welcome back to Science again. In our last lesson, we talked about the basic needs that all animals have. Those four things they need: air, food, water, and shelter or protection in order to stay alive through their life cycle. Today, the questions that we have are: what is a habitat and what is biodiversity? So let's start with the first question, which is: what is a habitat? A habitat is any place that provides the basic needs that an animal needs. So as long as a place provides those four things: air, food, water, and shelter or protection, that would be considered a habitat. A habitat usually includes all of those things that are needed there. So usually the food means other animals or other plants are located in that same habitat. So as I go around my house and look at where my animals live, you'll be able to see in the images here that as we look at Slayer, we can see that Slayer has lots of light and heat because he is a reptile, a cold-blooded animal. I have a hot lamp on top of him, and he actually has a heating pad under his cage as well, under his habitat. He has lots of things that looks like sand. It's actually crushed walnut shells that he sleeps on and lays on, and a log to climb on. But you can also see that he has food. So he has warmth, he has food. His water actually comes from his food. He doesn't have a drinking dish necessarily, but he gets water from the food that he eats. You can see here also that I've got a habitat for my mealworms. The mealworms, again, have their bedding, which is really their food. It's a kind of bran that they eat. You'll see a carrot in there as well. That's their food. They have lots of air, obviously, around them. Their water comes from the carrot also. So these animals that I've got in my house, they don't really need a lot of liquid water. They get their water from the food that they eat. The vegetables that they eat have enough water in them that is the water that they need. Again, the mealworms, you can see several stages of their life cycle here in this image as well. They go through their whole life cycle in this same habitat. It provides the air, the food, the water, and the protection they need, except when I feed them to Slayer, then they're not very well protected at all. And then the last one here, you can see that I've got Treppy. Treppy is a tropical animal. So this is where we talk about biodiversity. The other two animals I shared with you, Slayer and the mealworms, they live in a very, very dry environment. That would be part of the habitat that they need to survive. They like it warm and they like it dry. Treppy here likes it very warm, so you can see I have a light on top of him, and in one of these images you'll see that he has a heater next to him, so I actually turn a heater on if it gets too chilly in the room for him. So he needs it to be warm in his habitat. He also needs it to be wet, so you'll notice the glass is very foggy or wet because every day, several times a day, I spray water into his habitat because he is a tropical animal. He has to remain wet. And so that is part of what we call biodiversity. The plants that live in the rainforest where Treppy would live, he doesn't have any live plants in his cage. That is an artificial plant. But he does have, if there are plants that live in the place where Treppy would live in the wild, and those would be plants that need lots and lots of water in order to survive. So bio means life, diversity means lots of differences, and so we can see from the insects, the mealworms, to Slayer, a desert animal, to Treppy, who's a tropical rainforest animal, that these are some very, even though the lizards look similar, it's a very diverse habitat that they need in order to survive. Treppy would not survive in a dry, desert-like place where Slayer is, and Slayer would not do well at all in a wet place where Treppy is. So biodiversity and habitats are our focus for today. And biodiversity, lots of different life forms, which we love to learn about. And then habitat is all the places in the world where things live and meet the needs of the animals that live there. So we'll be focusing in the chunk and chew section today on learning more about habitats and biodiversity.